something that looks like a giant neon red jellyfish floating on the edge of space.
Reportedly burst through the window of a church, ripped the roof off, and killed 4 people.
You hear a buzzing sound around your head? Drop to the ground immediately. There is something universally comforting about sitting on a covered porch during a thunderstorm, right? You watch the lightning flash, you hear the thunder roll, and you feel safe because you know exactly how the storm works.
But what if you don't? What if the lightning doesn't just flash and vanish? What if it shoots upwards into space in the shape of a giant blood-red jellyfish? Or what if it forms into a glowing, hissing orb that floats right through the glass of your window and down your hallway?
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are staying out of the rain to talk about the rarest, most misunderstood electrical storms on the planet. We are talking about electricity that acts like it has a mind of its own.
We're breaking down 3 phenomena that scientists, pilots, and sailors have been terrified of for centuries. One of them happens so fast you can barely see it. One of them makes airplanes look like they are covered in ghost fire. And one of them, well, science still can't entirely agree if it's a hallucination or a deadly ball of plasma.
Alex, let's start with the one that literally looks like an alien invasion. If we looked at the storm clouds right in front of us, but we could see 50 miles above them, what would we be looking at?
We would be looking at red sprites. And honestly, they are the most terrifyingly beautiful things our atmosphere produces.
Red sprites are technically called transient luminous events, which is a very boring scientific name for something that looks like a giant neon red jellyfish floating on the edge of space.
Literally! If you look at the NASA photos of these things, they have a bright, glowing red body with these massive, downward-reaching tentacles made of blue and purple plasma, and the scale of them is impossible to wrap your head around. A single sprite can be 30 miles across and 30 miles tall. You could fit entire cities inside just one of their tentacles. And sprites aren't even alone up there. They have cousin phenomena called blue jets, which shoot up from the clouds like electrical geysers, and elves, which are expanding rings of light that span hundreds of miles in a millisecond. It is a literal zoo of bizarre plasma events.
But the craziest part is where they go. Normal lightning, the kind we're listening to right now, strikes down toward the ground or jumps between clouds. But when a massive, incredibly powerful lightning strike hits the Earth, it creates an intense electrical imbalance above the cloud.
Right. It acts like a giant atmospheric spring. That lightning strike pushes a massive electrical discharge upwards, way up into the mesosphere, which is almost the edge of space. It hits a layer of cold nitrogen gas, and suddenly, for just a fraction of a second, this colossal red jellyfish illuminates the dark sky.
And that nitrogen is exactly why it's red. Just like neon gas glows red in a bar sign when you run electricity through it, the nitrogen in our upper atmosphere glows that distinct, eerie crimson when it gets slammed by this massive electrical spring.
But when we say a fraction of a second, we mean a few milliseconds. They blink in and out of existence so fast that for decades, commercial airline pilots who saw them thought they were losing their minds. They wouldn't even report them to air traffic control because they thought they were hallucinating.
It wasn't until 1989 that a scientist at the University of Minnesota accidentally caught one on video while testing a low-light camera. Imagine that. Something 30 miles wide, hovering over our thunderstorms for millions of years, and human beings only got hard proof of it in the 1980s.
It makes you wonder what else is flashing above the clouds right now that is just a little too fast for our eyes to process. But as massive and alien as sprites are, they stay high up in the atmosphere. Our next phenomenon comes right into your living room.
Okay, let's talk about ball lightning. Out of everything in modern meteorology, this is the one that sounds the most like pure paranormal fiction. And because it's so rare and so unpredictable, we don't have crisp, clear photographs of it.
Right. We aren't talking about a flash. We are talking about a spherical orb of electricity, usually the size of a grapefruit, sometimes as big as a beach ball. It can be yellow, orange, or blue, and instead of vanishing, it floats.
It hovers a few feet off the ground. People have reported these glowing orbs floating down the aisles of commercial airplanes, floating down the chimneys of old houses, and most terrifyingly, passing completely undisturbed through solid glass windows, leaving no holes behind.
The historical accounts are insane. In 1638, during the Great Thunderstorm in Devon, England, an 8-foot ball of fire reportedly burst through the window of a church, ripped the roof off, and killed 4 people. For centuries, people thought it was demonic magic. Even Tsar Nicolas II of Russia wrote about a glowing orb of plasma floating into his room when he was a child.
But it wasn't just folklore and royalty. It impacted early science in a tragic way. In 1753, a prominent physicist named Georg Richman was trying to replicate Benjamin Franklin's famous lightning rod experiment in St. Petersburg. During a thunderstorm, a pale blue ball of lightning emerged from his apparatus, floated directly at him, and struck him in the head, killing him instantly. It left a red spot on his forehead and blew his shoes apart. But bizarrely, his clothes weren't burnt. It is widely considered the first recorded death by ball lightning in scientific history.
And despite that, the wildest part is that for a long time, the modern scientific community just said, nope, it's a mass hallucination. They said the bright flash of normal lightning was just burning an afterimage into people's retinas.
But there were simply too many reports, thousands of them. And finally, in 2012, a team of Chinese scientists were out studying normal lightning with high-speed cameras and spectrometers. They weren't even looking for ball lightning. They were just trying to map the radiation of standard strikes. But by pure chance, a glowing orb appeared in their shot, drifted across a field for 3 seconds, and vanished.
They finally caught it! The spectrometer analyzed the light, and they found silicon, iron, and calcium in the orb, which led to the leading theory today: vaporized dirt.
Exactly. When a massive lightning bolt hits soil that has a lot of silica in it, the heat is so intense, hotter than the surface of the sun, that it instantly vaporizes the dirt into a cloud of silicon nanoparticles. That cloud gets pushed up into the air, and as the silicon reacts with the oxygen around it, it burns.
It burns as a self-contained, floating, glowing sphere of plasma. Eventually, it runs out of fuel and either silently fades away or violently explodes. It is literally a ghost made of electrified dirt.
Okay, so we have lightning shooting into space and vaporized dirt floating through your window. But what if the lightning doesn't float? What if it crawls?
Imagine being a sailor in the 1400s. You are in the middle of the ocean, a massive thunderstorm is raging, and you look up at the towering wooden mast of your ship. Suddenly, the tips of the wood start glowing with a bright, violent blue and purple fire. The fire doesn't burn the wood, but it hisses and buzzes like an angry beehive.
And there's a smell, too. The intense electrical charge actually splits the oxygen molecules in the air, creating ozone. So right before you see the ghost light, the air gets this sharp, metallic, almost bleach-like scent. It engages all of your senses in the most terrifying way. They called it St. Elmo's fire, named after the patron saint of sailors. Sometimes they thought it was a holy omen protecting them, other times, they thought it was the ghosts of dead sailors clinging to the rigging.
But you don't need a wooden ship to see it today. If you look at the photos taken by pilots from the cockpits of commercial airliners, you can see this same phenomenon. If you are ever flying through a heavy electrically charged storm, look out your window at the tip of the airplane wing. You might just see ribbons of purple plasma creeping across the metal.
It looks like magic, but it's actually a brilliant example of physics called a coronal discharge. During a massive storm, the atmosphere becomes highly charged with electricity. It creates a massive electric field.
Right, and that electric field loves sharp, pointy objects. Ship masts, church steeples, airplane wings, or even the horns of cattle in a field. The electric field concentrates around these sharp points, and it gets so intense that it literally rips the electrons right off the air molecules.
It tears the air apart and turns it into plasma. So what you are seeing isn't actually lightning, and it isn't actually fire. You are seeing the air itself glowing as it reaches a state of electrical overload.
It isn't usually dangerous on its own, but it is nature's ultimate warning sign. In fact, some historians and scientists believe St. Elmo's fire played a role in one of the most famous disasters of the 20th century, the Hindenburg. In 1937, witnesses reported seeing a creeping, glowing blue halo surrounding the massive airship just moments before it exploded. The ship was trying to land during a highly charged thunderstorm, and that electrical coronal discharge, St. Elmo's fire, might have been the exact spark that ignited the leaking hydrogen.
That is incredibly chilling. So if you are ever standing outside during a storm and you notice your fingertips starting to glow blue, or you hear a buzzing sound around your head, drop to the ground immediately. Because St. Elmo's fire means the air is completely saturated with electricity, and a massive, fatal lightning strike is seconds away.
So, sitting here, listening to this rain, it really makes you rethink what's happening out there in the dark. It's not just water falling from clouds. It is a massive, invisible ocean of electricity, constantly trying to balance itself out.
And sometimes it balances itself out by creating giant space jellyfish and ghost fires. It makes you realize that as advanced as we think we are, nature is still out here operating on a level of physics that looks exactly like sorcery.
The next time you fly through a storm, keep an eye on the wing. You might just see St. Elmo's fire for yourself.
And if a glowing orb of plasma floats through your window, well, just hope it fades out before it explodes. Thanks for hanging out with us on the porch today. We'll catch you in the next episode.